Casual Magic has been sponsored by Quiver, maker of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine deck holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their website for 10% off your order. We're also sponsored by Architect, the premier site for hosting your decks on the internet. I love them and they love me, and it seems like a good reason for you to use them. You can also support Casual Magic directly by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/ShivamB. And now, on with the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam, Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Architect and Quiver. And today I have a guest that I've actually been trying to coordinate with you for years and years now. Zbex, Zinaid Beckham, the cosplayer extraordinaire, and also just, I don't know, do you own an LGS? Is that what the deal is?
Yeah, my family owns a store that I work at.
That's pretty rad. Because like I see you posting about that pretty regularly, and I'm like, I've never asked you about that, but that's cool.
Yeah, Addicted Behaviors in Eugene, Oregon, ccgobsession.com.
Eugene's a lovely city. I've been there a few times. It's cool.
It's pretty great. I moved away for a bit and then I came back and I was like, you know what? It's pretty good. It has more days of sun on average per year than Portland.
Portland is pretty much up in the fog belt. So it's like... Eugene is where the University of Oregon is, right?
Yeah, and we're number one right now. So going to a game this coming weekend, it's going to be great.
Nice. And that is about the extent of what I know about Eugene. But I've been there because I've driven to Portland and Seattle a bunch of times, and we always stop in Eugene and on the way up because it's a very convenient stop from California. But the reason I know you, and the reason most of the community knows you, is because you are a cosplayer extraordinaire and do like amazing stuff. And it's so delightful to watch. Like in Vegas this year, I saw you as a Jester's Cap from like freaking Ice Age. And that was the coolest, funnest costume I've seen in a long time.
I love vintage Magic and old school cards, and it was a real pleasure to see Dan Frazier's face and meet him in that cosplay and have him thank me later the next day when he saw me again. I don't think he realized what was happening when he saw me. So
yeah, because I mean, Jester's Cap hasn't been a thing since 1996. I remember because I was one of the first chase cards I ever pulled, and I traded it for 5 legendary lands from Legends, and everybody at the time was like, Jester's Cap is the best card in Standard. Why would you trade it for 5 lands? You can't even play it. I'm like, because Pendlehaven rules, shut your damn mouth. That's why.
It's still good.
Yeah, like even before that, I remember because like every time I would see you tweet, it would be like, so all you guys are playing other things, but I'm here playing Legacy and Vintage. And I'm like, okay, well, you're obviously cool. What are you doing? So I need to know, dude, because this year in Vegas is the first time you and I really got to sit and have a nice, lengthy conversation. Like we've met each other in passing many times, and obviously, like your husband was there, and like just our group of friends and stuff. But we've never actually had like a good conversation, and I was just really impressed by like the level of knowledge you have of all this stuff. And and the business of it, not even just like the making of content, but just like the art of making a living off of this. And that's really impressive, man.
It was really great because, like you said, we've really only been like, hey, hug, take a picture. All right, off to our own things.
Yeah,
but
right.
This time we got to have dinner together, not once, but twice, which was amazing.
And they were
fabulous
both great.
Food, great conversation. I hope we can do it again in future cities just to connect outside of the con, because that's really the easier way.
I have found that those dinners with humans, like with other people of our peers in like small groups of like 8 to 10 is like so much more valuable to me than the con itself, just because that's where we can actually get our like information trading and like actually get like lessons and like just talk to each other about what we've learned in doing this. And also it's weird because like people are like, I don't want to be like, oh, woe is me content creators, but like when we're on the show floor, we are on stage, right? Like we're on
Yeah, we are
stage.
turned on
Yeah.
100%. We are all smiles, answering questions. We're not really taking time to have
Like
our meaningful
right. We don't
conversations.
get to have actual in-depth conversations because 3 seconds in a fan's gonna come up and be like, oh man, picture, smile, sign, whatever. And that's fine. That's what
It's
we're there for.
great.
Like
Exactly. That's a
that's the
wonderful
best part,
feeling.
right? Like I love that. But also I would really like to get to know my peers once in a while.
Well, you can always count on me for having dinner reservations. I love to find the spots in the city and try to have space for enough people.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, it was. I like glommed onto both because our mutual friend Chris Mooney was like, "Hey, what are you doing for dinner?" And I'm like, "What are you doing for dinner? I'm doing whatever you are." And it worked out. It was delightful. So how did you? Okay, I really like. There's like two angles here, and I'm trying to figure out which one I want to go to first. So I guess I'll start with the easy one, which is. So your parents own a store? Like your family runs a store? How long has that been
Yeah.
going on?
The store's been open for 20 years.
Oh,
It's
wow.
actually my partner, Brock, who opened it. So,
Oh, damn.
yeah. So I like to say my family store because I didn't open it. I don't have all the experience on the back end. He is my family. I obviously am involved, but I'm a lot more of a salesperson. I get cards for people. I
Sure.
use my knowledge about the game, helping people build decks.
But he
I
runs a
have,
store.
yeah, he runs it. So,
I mean, I mean, real talk, both of you do. It's a family
yeah.
business. You guys like have this, but so did you have the store before you guys got together, or
Yes.
that's
So
really
we got
cool?
together in 2011, and I've been helping at the store since 2012 when I moved back down to Eugene.
Nice. Uh, I'm trying to think of like, well, how did you get into vintage and legacy
So I play a
or
lot more
magic, really?
legacy than vintage. I got into magic because when I was still in Portland and he was in Eugene while we were dating, he would be like, "Oh yeah, we've got 40 people at FNM this night," or "We got 50 people this week at FNM," or "We got 60 people at FNM this week."
Damn,
This was like the
damn.
heydays of Standard, Good Times, Innistrad, Return to Ravnica, and
Yeah, the time
I
when we
was
all
like,
came back to magic.
yeah, I was like, well, teach me how to play this game. I want to be one of those people, and I can probably beat you at it. So it wasn't anything that he pushed on me. It's something that I said, hey, this is something that you're really interested in. I would like to play it. And then how I got into Legacy, my first ever modern event was a PTQ. So that gives you an idea of how I just jump into things. Yep. We drove up to Guardian Games in Portland, and on the way I was like, okay, tell me what I sideboard against this.
Wait,
You know,
that
I
was your
played
first modern event?
I played Affinity.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
And then I was like, well, Legacy just
Hang on a
seemed like
second.
the more
Push your
optimal
mic back
version.
a smidge because it is a little crackly.
Okay,
Okay.
how's
Yeah,
that?
probably better. But yeah,
Okay.
that's insane.
Yeah. So Legacy then seemed like more appealing because you get to play even faster Magic and you get to play counter spells for free, which seemed cool. So
You know what? I liked free counterspells when it was like Days and Force of Will and not when it's like, 15 cards. Like free counterspells because like in Commander, free counterspells are a pain in the tuchus. And like Force of Will is fine. I like Force of Will. Even Force of Negation is fine. Days is also fine. But then like when you get to the one where it's like play your commander and you've got a free I'm like, no, this is stupid.
fortunately, you
Stop.
don't have to worry about that in Legacy.
Right, because there's no commander. What do you play in Legacy? What's your deck?
Well, my favorite deck is Shardless Bug, which is not really in existence after the Deathrite Shaman ban.
Oh,
My
Deathrite. So that card
second
was
favorite.
too good for this world.
I know. My next namesake would be Sneak and Show and Tell
I
Omniscience
love me a
deck.
sneak and show.
But right now it's also not positioned that well. So then I was on 4 color control, and then it had a card that got banned from it with expressive iteration. So I have finally, if you can't beat them, joined them, and I am now on Blue Red Delver because no matter what, there's always cards that come out.
God, I hate Delver.
I know. It's
God,
fun though. It's fast.
Delver is such a boring deck. It's such a I mean, like this is like my I guess my soapbox to rant on, but I mean, I know a lot of people love Delver, but man, I just that deck it just puts me to sleep. And of course, they're like, well, what do you play? I'm like elves, and they're like, yeah, that's not a boring deck. Shut up.
Elves is a lot harder to play than people realize, though. You
It
have
is
to know a
very
lot of
hard.
lines. And that's where I was like, until I find my next big splashy combo-y deck that I want to
Mm,
play or my tempo-y deck, I'll get good at Delver because no matter what, there's
it-
always a hot piece that you can play in your sideboard against
yeah.
whatever else is hot. So
I mean, Delver is always going to be near the top tier decks all the time. Magic designers love making cards that are here's like lightning bolt and another free counter spell, and then a bunch of ponder
and
preordain whatever's.
I like to play favorites from my old Shardless Bug deck, like True Name Nemesis, and people
That's fair.
say, "Who's playing that in
Yeah.
2024?" And I said, "I am," and it just beat you.
Man, TNN that's a card that like I haven't seen since like 2016, man. Like there was a day when that card was a real menace, and now it's just like, oh, it's a 3/1. Okay. I don't
Still
know.
relevant.
I see nothing wrong with that. I think it's a great card. Um, my personal favorite legacy deck is a deck that I don't play, but I love watching, and that's High Tide. I
Oh,
love watching High Tide, but it's also like that is a very, very like feast or famine deck. It's either going to work or it's going to do nothing. And I feel
also
like most
a
of my decks
very
do that.
difficult deck to play.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. The amount of math you have to hold in your head, and then like keeping like I think the thing that appeals to me about Legacy, and I guess a lot of people, is that it is such a deeply complicated like the games are short in quotes, but there's a lot of sequencing you have to do in order to not like just have your combo fizzle. Like it's very easy to break off a glimpse of nature and then just be like, or deck yourself and like, oh no, I'm drawing 3 cards a turn and I've got 2 cards in the deck. Crap.
I think that's why I love having the free counter spells, the Force of Wills, the Days, now the
Mm,
Force of Negations, whether it's Show and Tell or Delver or even the Shardless Bug deck. I feel like I excel at knowing what cards are
mm,
absolutely cannot resolve against my deck and knowing when to hold up 1 or 2 mana and wait for whatever counter spell they might have. It's this great game of bluffing and mind
mm.
games that you don't get in some other
Yeah.
formats.
That definitely feels like classic Magic to me, like Magic from when I was growing up, where it's like we all have counter spells and spell blasts and power sinks and whatever. So it's about what are you countering, and are they going to red elemental blast it, and then you have to blue element, and that whole like dance. And yeah, like because it feels like Legacy sometimes feels has that same feel of Commander does, where it's like there's one key card, and if that card resolves, game is over,
Yep.
and you better have that force in hand, or you're just like not going to do it. Uh, and it's always going to be that Bowmasters. Forget Bowmasters. I hate that damn card. God, Lord of the Rings just really just upended Legacy in a bad way.
It's not so bad.
One ring
Clearly,
enough.
I've countered this spell enough.
That's fair. That's fair. But I mean, I think it's really cool that like you're out there waving the flag for like eternal format. So, because like it feels so rare to see, and it just makes me happy because I love eternal formats. And but how about the other half though? How did you get into cosplay?
Well, you can kind of thank magic for it, but also I have a costuming background thanks to dance. So
Oh,
prior,
did you go to what did you do in what were you doing in Portland? Were you going to university?
oh no, I lived in Portland for a year and a half, just working
Mm,
post college. It
cool.
wasn't the city for me, but yeah, I have a dance background. I've danced since I was 3, like ballet, tap, jazz, hip hop, the whole
Oh,
works. I was in a
that's
performing
cool.
hip hop company.
Whoa, really?
Yep. And so I made my own costumes for the performances. We would kind of do the Destiny's Child thing where we'd pick a color and you'd make an outfit of that color scheme.
Mm,
So I had some experience making costumes a little bit from that, enough that I had gotten a sewing machine. And I would just make like costumes for parties,
Mm.
Halloween costumes, and at that college age. And then when I started playing Magic, I saw Liliana of the Veil, that great window decal that like every
Yes.
game store has. And I thought, she's hot. I want to dress like her. So my first ever cosplay was a purple cocktail dress and a black wig at Pro Tour Cons of Tarkir in Honolulu. We went there on vacation and I wore
Whoa.
that. Yeah,
So you
yeah,
went to Honolulu on vacation and then went to the Pro Tour?
yeah. We loved it so much I did it twice.
Oh god.
I did it again in no, sorry, that was Pro Tour Dark Ascension. It was
That
Pro
Brian
Tour
Kibler.
Cons of Pro Tour Cons of Takir when I did Nissa World Waker, when Mark Purvis saw me and actually was like, "Whoa, you're cosplaying? That's so cool. Why did you pick green?" And I really love playing green. And he's like, "Well, here's a guru forest." And that
Oh wow.
that
That's so
helped me
sick.
continue creating cosplays because I think Nissa was like my third one by then. So
That's so cool. I mean, I think that one of the things I love is just those kind of like small touches of kindness that help you want to like. For you, it's like something. It's like nothing big, but for that person, it's like the incentive they need. Like for me, the story I tell is like I went to Worlds in 2011 when he was here in San Francisco, and I just come back to Magic, and I hadn't really drafted or anything before, and I was just playing because they were all $5 drafts, and who cares? I'm just going to jam a bunch of drafts, and I was getting shellacked because like the people at Worlds on a Wednesday are like Team Finland or Japan, not just F&M grinders, right? So, and one like after hours and hours of getting crushed, I told my opponent, I'm like, yo, I'm just gonna, probably quit after this because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. He's like, well, hang on, let me look at your deck, and he showed me how to draft, and or rather, he showed me how to take this pile, build it, how to make a curve, how to like what to look for in draft, like basically gave me a full like lesson, and it was Reed Duke when he was the Mox champion. Like
cool.
he was at Worlds and he just stopped for a second and taught me how to play draft. And
That's
because of that,
awesome.
I didn't quit. And because of that, I'm now here and like all this stuff. And I'm like, so I try to make it a point to do those kinds of like nice gestures because you never know who's going to be the next Reed Duke that shows up and just like becomes something because you help them get somewhere. So like I love that story, man. Getting and plus Guru Forest, super cool, super cool.
Yep, it's inspirational. I have it sitting next to my bedstand. Just, that one key little thing that I got, I was like, people care if I continue dressing up like the art that's so amazing from this
That's
game that
awesome.
I'm really starting to love way back then.
Yeah. And that was very early in the era of Magic cosplayers. Like that was like during Sprankle's heyday. And like I think it was like Sprankle and Olivia and maybe like a handful of others. Barely.
Yeah, it was about the same time that Christine started because I know that at Worlds she had done her Elspeth, and I think that might have been 2011, and that was about the same time that I was doing the Liliana and stuff.
Mm.
I hadn't seen her, I didn't know about her until later on, but I am very fortunate to be one of the pioneers of Magic cosplay. Big thanks to Mark for that.
That's so
Yeah.
sick. I mean, I think it's one of my favorite things I've watched over the past like 10 years of doing Magic like really hardcore is watching it go from being just grinders in the hall to being this whole ecosystem of content creators and cosplayers and Vorthoses and people who love Magic for things beyond just playing. And I mean, you have a big role in that because, like, I see you at every show. Every show, you're dressed up as like 3 different things, and it's like you must have to carry so much luggage around.
I do bring 2 checked suitcases nowadays. When I started off, it was we'd go to one Grand Prix a year in a different city. So I'd make a new costume for each event that I went to, which was only one event per year. And obviously my skills have improved yards since then. But it's fun now. I kind of like having a different costume for each day, and I have enough that I can recycle and different group cosplays that people like doing that make it so much more fun. I'm not alone doing it anymore.
Yeah,
Like the Vegas Showgirls group we did, my Jester's Cap cosplay was actually a little showgirl themed for all of the other
yeah.
people that were participating in that.
I thought it was such a perfect costume for Vegas, especially since that gesture looks like a Joker from a card. So it's like it's very easy to kind of make that connection. I mean, I thought, and plus, as an old timer, I thought it was super sick. I love that one. I think that might be my favorite costume you've done, just because it looked so great. I was like, all right, let's go. But like cosplay is only part of what you do though, because like I can see behind you, you got a giant YouTube button, which means you've obviously done some amount of like content. What do you do?
I like to go to theme parks in addition to making costumes. So part of how I got my YouTube play button was how when I was at Universal Studios Japan, I was just having the time of my life, and we post content like that and people like it. I was dressed as Princess Peach in the Super Mario World, and I played the Chance Time, which apparently isn't at the one in California.
Yeah, because I was just there and I do not know what that is.
So that video I think has about 135 million views.
What the hell?
Yeah, so I've gone to some more theme parks this past year that I have some content to produce. I went to Efteling in Netherlands and Disneyland Paris when we were overseas for MagicCon Amsterdam, but people just like seeing people having a good time.
I mean, yes, they do. But also, that's insane.
Yeah.
That is insane. That's like numbers that game nights doesn't hit, right? Like, that's wild. So, like, so what do you do? So on YouTube, basically, you go to like different. Can you explain what your channel is?
Yeah, well, my channel is
Because, like, I mean, I apologize, like, because I know you from Twitter and from Magic, so I like didn't do my actual research part of this. So, like, what do you actually do?
well, it's still mostly magic and cosplay. So everything you've covered so far in the interview has been accurate. I'm just living my best life, sharing my
Yeah, you are.
experiences, and I've shared different videos that have blown up in different ways. Sometimes it's even the very cutesy, very demure, but in a magic sense. I have different videos that do well. I just like being both entertaining in my cutesy girly sort of way while having fun doing the things that I love to do. That I think when I was growing up, I have two older brothers. So I have a lot of nerdy video game influence. Girls playing video games wasn't as common 20 years ago as it is nowadays.
Indeed.
So I feel like now I get to embrace my passions, and there's a whole nother generation, not only ours who enjoy it, but kids who see it. And I'm family friendly like you.
Yeah,
So it's just a perfect world to be able to share what I love and have people like it.
that's great. That's like awesome. That's the sort of thing I relish that, because it's just like it's there's so much negativity and there's so much just like it's easy to just make like hate clicks all the time. So like when I see like positivity YouTube, it's like something I can feel good that my kid's watching and not be like, oh, he's gonna watch Fortnite and become a racist. Like, come on, let's calm down, people.
Yeah, I share outfit videos too, or makeup tips, like makeup like magic cards. I have a couple different
Oh yeah,
series
you
where
did. I remember you did a whole series once on like alpha, like A to Z of like every day you would do makeup like a different card based on a different letter of the alphabet or something like that.
yeah, I still technically need to finish it. I think I only got to K or L, so it's to be continued. Sometimes life gets a little bit busy, and I'm
Okay.
definitely going to be working. We had a great conversation in Vegas with Anna Margaret,
Oh
working on
yeah.
putting out even more content on my YouTube to help recategorize it. Some of that stuff that we talked about.
Yeah, like I need to actually go through and like, dude, I am looking forward to having a conversation with her sometime, because Anna Margaret is insane, like in the
She's
best
also
way.
a bright light. Yeah.
She's like genius tier, and I'm like, who are these? Like this year, I've been trying to make a concerted effort to actually break out of my little content bubble of the folks I know and start to actually meet the rest of my peers. And it's just been really impressive, because you guys do so much. You do so much work, and it's showing off. And you have huge. Like I saw that line you had in Vegas. That was immense. It was capped.
It was
so
pretty
cool.
exciting to see them going out into the middle of the concrete section and have to have a staff member come over and move them onto the carpeted area. I had a friend, I was like, take a picture. And he was like, what? And I said, of the line. Like I myself was mind blown. So thank you to everyone who's listening who came to see me in Vegas. Like,
isn't that so
it means
sick?
so much.
It's like the best feeling in the world. You're like, and people are like, oh gosh, I didn't want to bother you and ask you to sign a card. I'm like, no, please. That's like literally the greatest thing in the world. Oh man, what has it been like becoming like a content creator now that content creation in Magic is actually getting recognized and like people know who we are? How's that journey been for you?
It's been great. I feel like I'm doing a lot of the same things that I've been doing for a long time. I've just gotten better at it. And now that people are paying attention, it's a great time to have already spent years improving my skills. I have pictures, great professional pictures from people in the community, like Show and Tell to you, Drew, or Deadbeat Scott, who find me at events and I'm able to use that. There's more people. Like you said, Magic scenes used to be only competitive grinders. And I would be able to look up and down the rows and see hardly any other female presenting people. And now I have people where I'm like, let's film a TikTok. And they're down for it. That wasn't quite the thing back in the day.
I remember when one of the first interactions we ever had was part of, I think, some like content creator thing. And you sent me a message saying, okay, I need you to dance like this on camera. And I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. It was for some like TikTok GIF thing that you made. And I was just like, I don't understand. I'm too old for this. I don't get it. Oh,
I'll give you better instructions next time.
Yeah, I think I need to learn how to TikTok and figure that whole system out. God, dude, I am old, and this is weird and new, and I don't understand what's going on. But from the store side, though, since you see and deal with customers all the time, that must mean you like have seen like the player bases come and go, and like what do you think? How has the Magic player changed since you started doing this stuff?
Oh, the Magic player back when I started,
it used to be like all standard grinders.
It was all standard. I was gonna say I would sell that like red blue Journey into Nyx. I forget what they even called them, event decks, and I'd be like,
right.
just buy 4 of this red card and 4 of this red card, and then you'll have a deck that's competitive for F&M. They don't even make standard product anymore, hardly like that. But it's become so much more of a sit around and have a drink with your friends, like more of a social game. So I think it's been a really nice shift because that's been so much more welcoming to people who are like, but I don't want to come on Friday night and get my butt kicked by people that I don't know. I'd rather play a game with my friends. People I do know. Yeah, exactly. More like a board game night. And Commander, its growth has really accelerated that player. And I think, can I say Magic is mainstream now?
It feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, before I would be like, I play Magic, and people would be like, what's that? And I'd say, the company who makes Dungeons and Dragons? It's like that, but more math than
but with
reading.
Cards.
Yeah. And so now I can be like, it's Magic, and it's a game where you get your opponent's life from 20 to 0, and it's kind of like chess, but kind of like poker. And I feel like it's not just like, Magic who? Are you performing bunny tricks out of a hat?
Yeah, it's exactly. It's like they're a rabbit in a hat and a wand. It's like, no, dude, no. It's card games.
Even the number of female presenting people that come into the store. Before I would, as a girl myself, I'd always make sure to ask the girlfriend, what can I get for you? And a lot of times they'd be like, oh, I'm just here with him. And a lot of times now I can say that, and they're like, oh, I'll get a booster pack. They're into it. They like opening the cards. They're paying attention. So just the player has completely evolved to, there's so much more products and stuff that interest people. I happen to love Universes Beyond on that note for that reason.
It's been great for bringing people in, right? Like, yeah, like Lord of the Rings, I definitely saw like Lord of the Rings and Warhammer. I saw a ton of people being like, yo, I'm a fan of X, and I never bothered playing Magic, but now this is super fun and I want to do this. And with Final Fantasy being like the literal biggest video game thing on the planet, it's going to be even more. And Marvel, obviously being Marvel, like, yes, I am a Vorthos. I like the story. I like our characters. I like our planes, but I also like having people to play with.
And regardless of them having all of these great universes beyond that other people are going to enjoy, we are still going to get to revel in the Jester's Cap cosplay. Don't worry, I will have both. I have Tara Branford from Final Fantasy VI that I'm starting on already. But my next vintage cosplay I'm thinking is going to be Show and Tell.
Does Show and Tell have a figure on it?
Yeah, it's a coat and it's got a bunch of tentacles popping off of it and like all sorts of weird stuff on the desk.
I don't think I've ever like looked at Show and Tell like up close. I've just been like, Show and Tell. It's there. Okay, I put my thing up. Oh yeah, it's the dude.
It'll be great for Chicago where you need a coat.
Oh, that's horrifying. Yeah, Jeff Lobenstein's artwork. Oh, that's going to be funny. I'm staring at the Urza Saga Show and Tell now, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that would be really
funny.
The
original, definitely.
Yeah, the only Show and Tell. Yeah, like, I don't know. I've noticed that, like, at Magic Cons especially, like, at old GPs, it was dudes as far as the eye can see. And now there's, like, families, and there's people pushing, like, trams with their little kids in it, and there's little kids playing Magic, and not just, our dear Nissa, what's her name? I feel embarrassed. They were on my show. She was 6 and now she's 13 and she plays green. Oh,
Dana Fisher.
Thank you. I'm embarrassed because she was like 4 episodes ago and I've known her since she was 6. But yeah, like Dana Fisher's not the only child and or only girl there, right? Like now there's like a million and it's amazing. And,
MagicCon's helped that a ton. There's more of things to do than just the main event.
Right. Like there's stuff for us to do.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I love Magic, but you're never going to see me at a main event. I'm not going to sit down at PTQ or even an RTQ or even a FNQ. I don't know. Whatever.
I used to be such a grinder. I used to do
that's
all
so
of those
wild
events.
To think about. Like, you don't, like, you're such a happy, friendly person. You don't strike me as a grinder.
I made a couple of day 2s. My first one was in Legacy and my second one was in Standard. I never cashed, but I can at least say that I did well.
Day
enough
2
to
is
make
still something, man. That is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
What do you play now? Do you still like to play like 60 card or do you play 100 card like the rest of us?
I still prefer 60 card because I like beating up on people. That's part of the reason why a lot of my commander decks, I have very specific themes. Like I have 3 or 4, I have 4 different video game themed decks now. And like almost every card has something that represents a game. I've got Chrono Trigger, Mario Kart 64, Toe Jam and Earl, and Sonic the Hedgehog.
Toe Jam and Earl?
Yeah, have you played that game?
Of course I've played it. I had a Sega Genesis in 1993. That was a roguelike. But Toe Jam and Earl is a deep cut, man. Like that's like that's when I was like a child.
Borgamos and Fibblethip.
Oh, for God's sake.
Perfect.
Oh my God.
And I got that is in there. Money.
That's so stupid. I love that. What's your Mario Kart deck like?
It's King Kenrith because that's King Bowser and I needed 5 colors and it gets really deep in the lore. So every character who has a track also has a vehicle and they're all from the same plane. And I have a land for all 16 tracks that you can play in each cup.
Oh my gosh. You must have that must have been a lot of Scryfall searching.
A little bit, but I've also adapted it over time. So I made it better. And I can't wait for Aether Flash to see if I'm going to make any changes now.
Yeah, I feel like Aether Drift is going to give you a lot of more cars at least.
Yeah, and hopefully some more like instants or sorceries. I have a couple of things like the lightning and different items, but I'm fine tuning it a little bit here.
Who's your Sonic the Hedgehog?
Bria, Riptide Rogue from Bloomborough. It gives your other creatures prowess, and it has prowess. And then when you play a non-creature spell, you choose a creature that can't be blocked. So it's perfect because I got to go fast.
Oh my god, that's delightful. And then your fourth one, Final Fantasy. You said
I have
no.
Chrono
Chrono
Trigger.
Trigger. Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
Who's your
My absolute favorite character is Ayla from the prehistoric times in the
cave girl?
Ioka village. Yeah. So I have Nyath. She's green with
Mhm.
the red pip. She's a fight one.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's a cool card.
I have it called Charmed and Dangerous because I have like all of the red green cards that say charm in there, like Gruul Charm, Evolution Charm. I got some Reptites in there. I got the Moonstone,
Oh my god.
the Masamune.
Ayla was in my party the whole game. She was like in my final party for that. Man, Chrono Trigger, I played a lot. I am a big fan of Chrono Trigger. But
Favorite game, hands down. That was my first video game deck.
That's pretty sick. I wanted to make a video game themed deck for Suikoden, which is my favorite RPG. But
I love Suikoden.
It's like my all-time favorite. It's like in my top 5 games of all time. But Suikoden's got 108 characters. Can't make. Well, I mean, I could probably make like a smaller. Ooh, I haven't actually thought about that until like literally this second. But now I'm like, that could be really fun.
You could have a smaller one and have a section of like the when you go to battle against each other.
And then you have the team up characters to represent the team attacks.
Ooh. We've hit something here.
Because Suikoden is like so much fun. I mean, I love that Magic allows us to do crazy theme decks like this. I think that's like so much fun to me. And it always means that you get to pick really weird subpar like forgotten cards that hit the exact theme note, and it's just like that's my joy when I can beat you down with like a Sibilant Spirit or something, just some trash garbage card from a million years ago that is exactly right for the theme. That is the way I want it to be. Yeah,
and for Commander, when I'm playing, then I'm like, I'm telling the story where I'm going back in time to get the Sunstone.
Exactly.
Even if you do your thing, I got to be my narrator, and because it's Commander, so
yeah, it's
whatever.
Exactly. I would rather have a fun story and walk away and be like, dude, you never believe what that deck did, rather than I won. Whereas if we're playing one-on-one, then I'm going to definitely be like, yeah, I won.
Yeah. Bragging rights.
How are you on Limited?
Oh, I love Limited. I think I prefer, like, I rank Legacy as my favorite, and then Limited, specifically Sealed, as my
Thank you.
favorite.
Finally, somebody else who loves Sealed. Sealed is like my favorite way to play. I just love having, because it's a limited pool. It's 6 packs. So you don't have to deal with it, and you got to figure out how to make this work. That's delightful to me. And like the power level feels kind of capped. Sealed sucks now because of play boosters and everybody having 48 rares in their decks or whatever. However, by and large, love Sealed.
I think I've always been good, similar to Legacy, whereas like I know how to assess the threats. I feel like I'm good at assessing what's good in my pool, even if if it's the pre-release and there hasn't been 1,000 drafts or sealeds that have been done on Arena to give you examples. I feel like without any of that information, I'm just good at doing that.
Yeah, it's wild to me. I never thought that you, with always smiling and very happy and friendly, are secretly a super spike underneath there.
Yes.
That is so funny to me. Like, if I had known that coming in, this conversation would have a very different tenor. So do you like competing?
Magic, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, do you enjoy playing for like stakes and stuff?
Yeah. I've played it in like competitive poker tournaments before,
I feel like if I sat down against you in a tournament, I would be so distracted by just how friendly you are. And I'd be like, what am I doing? You're just cutting me down to size and I don't know what's going on.
We'd have a good time regardless of the result. I'm never want to go. I can be a total spike without having a bad day based on the match results.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's fine to be competitive and to be cutthroat. And in the middle of a game, I don't expect anything other than like, if we're playing a one-on-one, then yeah, we know that one of us has to win. No harm, no foul. And that's why it's like, God, it's winter now, so my throat's getting all grunky and it's gross. Talk amongst yourselves. Anyways, that's a weird tangent because I'm just like, I'm like on the fly reevaluating my take of what Zbex in the world is. Like, because I didn't think. I mean, I knew you were a Legacy player, and I know the Legacy players tend towards competitive. But the idea that you're like grinding PTQs, just like that's like you're hella good at Magic. That's really cool.
I like the game. It's challenging, but it makes sense. Yeah.
Mostly, usually.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like that wording is a little weird. I saw a card in Foundations where it was like, when this creature attacks, target that creature and it gets minus to this creature. I'm like, you guys can use names. It's okay. The card has a name. Like they now, the templating for Foundations is going to take a smidge of getting used to, but the cards look sick. Like I'm very excited.
Love the cards. All the anime arts, I'm all about. That cute little kitty doubling
kitty doubling season.
Yeah.
We're on the same page.
Yes. And the little dog in the background with the mask on.
Oh my God. It's so adorable. I'm like sad because I love my doubling seasons because I have the Judge Foil one with the snakes, but I don't want to, but like that's a kitty doubling season. I gotta have the kitty doubling season. I'll put it in like the dog and cats deck or something like that. So what do you think, like, given that we're going into the future, like how do you decide what your cosplays are going to be? Like, do you try to look at the sets and try to decide what's the cool thing about it? Or like going into like, say a Magic Con, like how do you prepare for this sort of thing?
Well, there's a couple of things because I always have a couple of things on my mind. Hot things that are going to be hot, and they don't necessarily even need to be current. Like Smothering Tide, the anime art, is another one that I did at Vegas, and that's a great playable card. I like cards that are recognizable or that people can recognize. So Tara Branford, that's on the hot track. And I also have an Oops All Zebex cosplay deck, which has 42 cards that I've cosplayed in it. So now I'm also picking cards.
How many things have you cosplayed?
42 in Magic alone.
That's amazing.
But so now I'm picking cards that are also good for that deck. Another kind of checklist thing that I need to finish off. I have now cosplayed every type of card except land, and I already know what I'm going to do for that.
You're going to be a Standing Stones?
I'm going to be an island. I'm so excited. I have to figure out how I'm going to break it down because it's going to be too big to fit in a suitcase, but
for God's sakes.
It's going to have to break in half. It's going to be great. You know, the Cup Island, it's the best one.
You're going to cosplay as like the cereal bowl?
Yeah.
That way, I just know with your like Oops All Zebex, like one day when you come to a MagicCon dressed as a lightning bolt, I will understand. You're like, look, I needed an instant.
Hey, I've done Force of Will and Serum Vision, so I've already got the spells down, and Paradise Mantle for Artifact. So Creature and Planeswalker are easy. So I have those types of lists. And now Jester's Cap was also such a hit that part of the reason I want to do show and tell is I feel like I need to keep the old school Magic IP alive. Yes. And so I also have a track of that. So I have a bunch of different tracks. There's also a D&D group that I'm going to do with Chicago. So I'll also have something of that to do. So there's always just a lot of ideas. As far as new cards when they come out, it has to be something that I think is fun to make and that will be popular to play because, you know, we all have our favorite common that we're like, this card's so cool. But if nobody recognizes you as it, like I do other cosplays, like I've done Ayla from Chrono Trigger, and it's cool when you go to a Gen Con and like some people recognize you, but a lot of people are like, are you Bam Bam? And it's like, it's fine. It's okay. I know you don't get it.
Well, I mean, Chrono Trigger is pretty old at this point, right? Like even the remake is like a decade plus.
I guess, but it's the best game ever. So.
It's a very good game.
So that's kind of how I pick stuff.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to think like what would be a cool legacy or old school thing for you to dress up as that I haven't seen anybody do. And I'm like, Birds of Paradise, Ornithopter, but that's not a fun cosplay. There's nothing fun about
I would do Smuggler's Copter in a heartbeat.
Oh, Smuggler's Copter would be cool. Ooh, smuggler's copter would be cool. Ragavan.
I actually have done Carrie Zev, and I have a monkey up on my bookshelf that sits on my shoulder. That's actually how I met Dana Fisher, because when she was little, she came up to me and said, "My favorite animals are monkeys."
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I met her and she came up and gave me a big old hug around my like knees because she was like so small at the time. Oh, Dana, it's so good. I love seeing her succeed. It makes me very happy. Um, yeah, like because I remember you like hung out with my wife in Chicago, which for by the way I'm very grateful for because she was like she's not a magic person, but she was there to support me and also to see Chicago, and like you guys got to talk about Japan, which was cool. And uh, but it feels like you and I have come from a very similar like cultural background of like weebs and like Super Nintendo and Genesis games from like the olden days. But like, oh man, what would be cool for you dress like the original Sarah Angel? That's a cool
Well, that would
cosplay.
be cool. Yeah. I mean, her costume is pretty simple. It's just like a
Yeah, just
white
like
dress.
bustier and whatever dress thing,
And
or like
Doug Schuler's pretty cool. I had him sign my Sarah the Benevolent armor when I met him a few years ago.
yeah, I was like trying to think on what are the iconic cards from like the ancient days. Like nobody cosplaying Shivan Dragon. That's not gonna happen.
I was just gonna say maybe I should do Shivan Dragon.
That would be amazing. That would be sick. Or like counterspell with Mister Finger Broken guy.
Yeah, yeah, he's
But you
got
don't
like a
have a
cool
beard, so
coat.
you can't really do that.
I could gender bend it. Be fine.
Yeah, and people would everybody would recognize it immediately because the dude just like, eh. um, I don't know. Seeing your cosplays every time is just, it brings a smile to my face, and I really enjoy seeing it. So it's really cool. Also, like I have to say, your eye makeup that you do on like all these things is really great.
Thank
Like
you.
it's like I remember because like I don't pay attention to that much, but when you did like your series on Twitter and you're just doing this stuff, I'm like, holy crap, that's incredible. Like that's so sick, and uh, I just really I love that you share these things. It's so cool.
It's really cool because you can watch it's when you're in enough nerd things, you'll get stuff like people painting Warhammer minis on your feed and people doing makeup looks, and you
Right?
will realize, wait, I can borrow some of these techniques, or people doing MTG altars. I'm like, I can use that if I have a fine enough brush to use it with my paint pots of the eye stuff.
That's insane to think about. I
It's
didn't even
fun.
think about that, but like you would probably be a really good minis painter.
Maybe, my older brother, Jason, was into still is into Warhammer a bunch. So I know those brushes are even smaller
Yeah,
than what
because you
I
have to
do.
have like one of the reasons I've avoided like all of that side of the hobby is because I've got very unsteady hands and you have to have really fine touches on these things. But I think you could like I've seen the kind of makeup you could do. You'd probably be sick at it.
There's something about having a longer brush though on your face where, like, I don't know, the size of your pinky nail versus the size of your thumbnail length, where if you get a nice stroke with the longer brush, like if you've ever watched people paint like those like great wave, I saw a Japanese artist doing like a bunch of waves where they do a
Mm.
lot of long fluid motions. I'm better at those motions than the little tiny ones, but maybe I'll have to take a stab at miniatures.
I mean, at least you know what? At MagicCon they had like that free table where you could sign up, sit down, and paint your own minis. So
Oh, I
maybe
didn't
you'll have to
see
do
that.
that.
I'll have to do
It
that
was
next
literally next
time.
to the creator center. There was that whole family area, and part of the time they had people like hand out minis and paints, and you could just sit there and paint D&D minis. And I was like,
That's so
I should do
cool.
this. That sounds awesome. Like,
Okay, I hope they have that at Chicago. I'm going to look
yeah,
out for that.
yeah. You know what? It's gonna be great. It'll be great to see you at Chicago, and I hope we get a chance to hang out again. It was a ton of fun. But
Same.
if folks wanted to find you or your YouTube channel or anything, where could they go?
You can find me at Zbex on every platform. That's ZBEXX. And I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, Twitch.
The whole panoply of everything.
Yes, I'm really keeping my YouTube growth is my main focus as I move into 2025. So if you're going to follow me one place, please consider checking out my YouTube channel, because that's where I'm going to be putting the most focus in. I really like how they reward creators for their work, and think it has the most, if you're looking at getting into content creation, I think it has the most longevity. Your content doesn't retire as early. It doesn't go off the algorithm as fast as some other apps.
Yeah, my goal this year, my goal going forward is to try to broaden my YouTube kind of platform and put more stuff out there, because I think that's the direct, like, social media is unreliable. So YouTube is forever, so like, I guess we'll have to see where that goes. And our discussions in Vegas definitely gave me a lot of like interesting directions to look in. So I'm very excited to see where that goes. But
I'm excited to see how we both grow in the next year. Yeah,
it's super cool. We should collaborate. We should do some stuff.
We should. Let's do like some Japanese video or something.
Yeah, that would be hella fun. But thank you so much for joining me. It's lovely to talk to you. It's super cool. And I learned a lot about you, which I did not expect. Normally I do some research, but this time I'm like, oh, I know what Zane does. Also, congratulations. Rather, solidarity to the Weird Name Kids Club. Like,
that's right. Always correcting people growing up. No big deal.
Life. The worst thing is that everybody knows how to say Shivan Dragon, and however they learned how to say it is how they're going to say my name, and I'm never going to beat that. I can't do anything about it. It sucks.
You want to know what my secret is? I can tell how old people are by what reference they make. They'll either say, oh, Sinead like Sinead O'Connor, Sinead like Zidane Zidane, or Sinead like Zendaya. And then I know exactly how old they are by their reference that they make.
That I would have said Sinead O'Connor. So yeah, that tracks. Yeah. Thanks so much for joining me, Zvex.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and as always, my friends, you can find me at Gear Pretty Gears. You can find this podcast where podcasts are told, or at YouTube every Tuesday, thanks to my editor, Dan. You can also see me on Shivam, Wheeler Love Magic, or on the Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast. And remember, my friends, it's not magic without the gathering, and we'll see you next time.